The story begins with a man named John Brennan. He was an ordinary teacher who created such a master plan to get his wife out of jail that the police, doctors, and the entire system kept dancing to his signals. He made fake reports, cut phone lines, misled the police, and played every move as if life itself were a game of chess. Because for him, this wasn't theft. This was the final move of love. The story begins on a pitch-dark, silent night, when a college teacher named John Brennan is driving his car at high speed in a state of extreme panic. On the back seat of his car lies an injured drug dealer, whom John himself has shot. Now the question is, how far can a simple, straight-laced college teacher go to break his wife out of prison? You'll understand the answer only after hearing his genius plan, a plan that even the police were shocked by. The story goes back 3 years earlier, when John was living a happy life in his beautiful home with his wife Lara and their son Luke. Lara had diabetes, so like every morning, she was taking her insulin injection. That's when her eyes fell on a small blood stain on her jacket. She immediately rushed toward the sink to wash it. But before she could understand anything, the door burst open and the police stormed inside and arrested Lara for murder without asking a single question. Later, the court declared Lara guilty and sentenced her to life imprisonment. Even then, there was no solid evidence that could force the police to reopen the investigation. In fact, all the existing evidence went against Lara. One of her office colleagues had seen her leaving the crime scene. Blood stains were found on her jacket, and the murder weapon had her fingerprints on it. After seeing all this, the lawyer clearly told John the reality. That's when John made up his mind and said straight out, she will come out of jail, no matter what happens. He went to meet Lara and told her everything the lawyer had said. Tears filled John's eyes, and seeing them, Lara understood everything. A look of hopelessness spread across her face. She broke down crying, as if the last ray of hope inside her had gone out. But it was as if fate was testing John. That very night, he received news that Lara had suddenly been admitted to the hospital. Without wasting a second, he rushed there. But the hospital staff didn't allow him to meet her. John argued and fought with the doctors and the police. Finally, he was allowed to see her for a short time. When he went inside, he saw Lara handcuffed to the hospital bed, with bandages wrapped around her wrist. In just one glance, John understood everything. Lara had probably given up on life. At that very moment, something broke inside John, and he silently swore that no matter how much the world stood against him, he would get Lara out of jail. Now John began preparing for his mission. He started reading every book ever written on prison escapes. He gathered every small and big detail he could find. Then he went to meet a man named Damon, who had escaped from prison 7 times. Damon explained to him that if he really wanted to escape, he'd have to keep his mind completely open. He would need to find tiny details in the prison's daily routine that could create cracks in the system. And most importantly, he had to decide his destination in advance. A place where very few people went, no tourists, and far away from buses, trains, and airports. Because when the system collapses, that's where the search begins first. Apart from that, he would need fake documents that no one could easily identify, and he'd have to escape to another state. Most importantly, all the money had to be kept in cash, so his location couldn't be traced through transactions. This meant he needed enough cash to last about 5 years, until the case cooled down. The hardest part of the plan was crossing the bridges of Pittsburgh, because after September 11th, the police there had learned how to seal the entire city within just 15 minutes. On top of that, he would have to permanently cut off contact with his parents and friends. And if necessary, he might even have to take someone's life. After hearing all this, John returned home and began mapping out his plan by sticking maps and photographs on a wall. Whenever he went to visit Lara in prison, he carefully noted even the smallest details. He noticed a hole in the elevator, and on the other side, some workers fixing a roof leakage. He also noted which trucks stopped there every day. John had gone so deep into the plan that even while teaching at college, he kept analyzing these details on his laptop. Finally, he decided to sell his house, because he needed a huge amount of money for the plan. Now he needed fake documents, so he started visiting a dangerous part of the city. There, he began buying OxyContin from a dealer and casually asked him about someone who made fake passports. After many attempts, he found a man who said that if he really wanted a passport, he should meet a dealer at a bar. But John was betrayed. As soon as he reached there, some goons attacked him and stole all his money. A man named Mike, who was sitting in the same bar, witnessed everything. A few days later, John returned to the same neighborhood. This time, 2 bikes were following him. Somehow, he managed to reach his house, and just then, the doorbell rang. John opened the door, and Mike was standing there. Mike said, "I can make a fake passport for you." John gave him some photos and advance money and sternly said, "After today, never come back to my house. I'll take the passport from another place." Mike agreed, but before leaving he said, "If I don't show up at the decided time, leave quietly without saying anything." After this, we see John preparing for the next step of his plan. He buys a gun from a shop and learns how to use it from the shopkeeper. The next day, he goes to the location Mike mentioned to collect the passport. After waiting for a long time, he realizes that Mike is late. But still, he doesn't leave. After a while, a car drives past, and then Mike arrives. Mike angrily says, "You're still sitting here? The car that just left belonged to a cop." Handing John the fake documents, he adds, "You've gone crazy over this plan, John, and one day, this madness will make you commit a huge mistake." After that, we see John learning how to make a bump key, a key that can open almost any lock. He made it himself after watching tutorials on the internet and decided to use it on his next prison visit. The day he went to the prison, he put the bump key in the metal detector along with his other keys. As soon as he crossed the detector, he secretly picked it up before the police could notice. Walking with the other visitors, John deliberately stayed at the back. As soon as he got a chance, he tried to use the key in the elevator. But unfortunately, the key broke, and half of it got stuck inside the lock. At that very moment, John threw away the piece in his hand and stood there as if nothing had happened. Within seconds, a police officer arrived and noticed the broken key. Immediately, all the visitors were questioned. When it was John's turn, he cleverly said after looking at the security camera footage, "I'm not even visible here. This tall man, he was standing in front of me." The officer felt slightly suspicious, but suspicion alone wasn't enough to take action. So they let John go. As soon as John stepped out of the prison gates, his condition worsened from panic. Detective Quinnen noticed all this, and suspicion also began to grow in his mind. From that day on, Quinnen secretly started keeping an eye on John. But John was completely unaware of this. He was busy slowly selling his household items. Whenever his brother came to visit, John would hide, so no one could understand his situation. One afternoon, John took his son Luke to the park. There, Luke's friend Carrie's mother invited him to Carrie's birthday party. But John's mind was lost in a completely different world. He was once again deep into his plan. During this time, he noticed a new medical van stopping outside the prison. At that very moment, a brilliant idea struck him. Now, he was going to execute his plan using this van. He researched Lara's diabetes. Then, for several days, he followed the van to learn its exact schedule. He also learned from the internet how to unlock a car using a tennis ball. The next day, he used the same method. He opened the medical van's door with a tennis ball and took photos of Lara's medical reports from inside. Later, he prepared a fake report showing that Lara's condition was extremely serious. A few days later, when John went to meet Lara, she gave him some bad news. After 3 days, she was going to be transferred to an even stricter prison. Hearing this, the ground slipped from under John's feet. Now he had only 3 days to complete his plan. The biggest problem was that his house still hadn't been sold, and he didn't have the money needed to arrange their escape. Finally, John picked up his gun and left with the intention of robbing a bank. But even after reaching there, he couldn't bring himself to do it. His hands started shaking, and he couldn't gather the courage. He stood outside the bank for a while and then quietly returned. Later, he went to meet Lara in jail again and said that he would file an appeal against her transfer to another prison. Hearing this, Lara became furious because John was still not ready to accept reality. Lara said, "You're living in a dream, John. You think I can get out of here, but the truth is, that will never happen." Finally, to stop John, Lara confessed with tear-filled eyes that she herself had committed the murder. She wanted John to move forward in life and start fresh with someone else. But even then, John didn't believe her. He went to meet Lara again, this time with even stronger determination. He said, "Don't lose hope. I will definitely get you out of here." Now, somehow, John had to arrange the money. As night fell, he returned to that same dangerous neighborhood. There, he followed a dealer and reached his boss's house. The moment he got a chance, John suddenly grabbed the dealer and shoved him inside the house. During the struggle, the house dog bit John on the leg. But John pointed the gun and threatened them, saying, "Alex, lock the dog in the room. Right now." When John demanded money, they handed over all the cash in their pockets out of fear. Alex laughed coldly and said, "You don't have the guts to kill anyone. You couldn't even shoot the dog." But then John poured whiskey on the floor and lit it with a spark. As soon as the flames rose, the room filled with fear and tension. Alex panicked and said there was a child in the house. To save the child, he ran upstairs. But John used the foreign dealer as a shield and followed him. This move worked in John's favor because Alex had gone upstairs to get a gun. As soon as he fired at John, the bullet hit the dealer instead. Alex tried to aim again, but before he could pull the trigger, John shot him dead in one swift move. After that, John searched every room in the house and soon found a bag full of money. While escaping, his eyes fell on the dealer. He was still alive, lying on the ground, groaning in pain and begging for help. This is where the story truly begins, when John is driving away with the badly injured dealer in his car. On the way, his car's tail light broke. John thought about taking him to the hospital, but before he could do anything, the dealer died inside the car. In the end, John left the body at a bus stop. Then, according to his plan, he went to a parking lot and started cutting the fence. Meanwhile, Alex's house caught fire, and soon the police arrived at the scene. They found bloodstains on the ground and, as evidence, the broken tail light. After finishing his work, John went to spend the night at his parents' house. When his father picked up John's bag, he noticed plane tickets inside it, and in that moment, he understood what John was about to do. The next morning, before leaving, John told Luke to hug his grandparents, because he knew this would be their last meeting. In the end, John's father also hugged him tightly and said goodbye with a heavy heart. Finally, the day had arrived. John was going to execute his plan. He packed everything and tore up all his maps and papers, putting them into 2 separate trash bags. After that, John reached the medical center and, without wasting time, cut the phone lines. Then he quietly entered a van and replaced Lara's blood samples. Now, instead of the real report, the fake report he had made was placed there. After this, John dropped Luke at his friend Carrie's birthday party. Before leaving, he said to Carrie's mother, "If I'm a little late coming back, Luke has his grandparents' number in his pocket." On the other hand, when the doctors at the hospital saw the blood report, they sensed something was wrong and tried calling the lab. But the phone line was dead. Without waiting, they admitted Lara to the hospital based on those reports. Meanwhile, the police identified the car model from the broken tail light. After further investigation, all the evidence began pointing toward John. When they reached John's house, they found the wall covered with his entire plan and maps. At the same time, detectives received news that Lara was being admitted to the hospital. Now they were fully suspicious of John's intentions and decided to rush to the hospital as well. But John had already reached there before them. He entered Lara's room wearing a doctor's coat. Then he threatened the police officers with a gun and had Lara's handcuffs unlocked. After that, he tied the officers to chairs. But then Lara refused to run away with John. This made John furious. In anger, he said, "Then call your son and tell him that today his parents won't come back alive." Hearing this, Lara realized how dangerous the situation had become. She understood that if she didn't escape now, John might actually kill someone. Finally, Lara quickly put on the clothes John gave her. But just then a nurse saw them. Both of them immediately rushed into the elevator. The nurse shouted loudly and called security. John and Lara quickly removed their white coats and headed straight toward the lobby. But the detectives were already waiting there in ambush. Seeing them, John quickly pressed the button for another floor, and the detectives ran down the stairs to chase them. As soon as the elevator doors opened, John cleverly threw both coats near the stairway and stepped back into the elevator. Seeing the coats, the detectives assumed that John and Lara had escaped down the stairs toward the parking lot, so they rushed there. But the truth was that John and Lara had already come back down to the lobby and, within moments, exited through the main door. After crossing the road, John changed his jacket and disappeared into a crowd of baseball team fans. That crowd was heading toward the station, and within it, John and Lara quietly boarded a train. But the trouble wasn't over yet. John knew that police would be waiting for them at the next station. So suddenly, he pulled the train's emergency brake. As soon as the train stopped, both of them jumped off and realized they were right in front of the same parking lot John had visited a few days earlier. The hole in the fence now came in handy. They went through it and reached John's car, which was already waiting there. Without wasting any time, John sped off at full speed. They managed to cross the first bridge in time. The next step was to pick up Luke. But here, John made a small mistake. When he reached Carrie's house, he found out that the party was still going on, and they hadn't returned yet. On the other side, the police were searching John's neighborhood and soon found all his planning papers in the trash bags. John increased the car's speed and headed toward Jay. But at the last moment, he changed the road. He said to Lara, If we delay any longer, all the roads will be blocked, and we won't be able to get Luke. Then he softly said, "We'll have to leave him here. His grandparents will take care of him." But Lara was absolutely not ready to live without her son. Suddenly, she opened the car door and stuck her head out. At that very moment, a truck was speeding toward them. The collision was just a second away. But at the last moment, John swerved the car, and both of them narrowly escaped. John immediately stopped the car and told Lara that she was right. He also couldn't live without his son. Finally, he decided to go back. They went straight to Jay, took Luke with them, and now only one destination remained: somehow crossing that checkpoint. Suddenly, a brilliant idea struck John. He drove straight to the train station and offered a ride to an elderly uncle and aunt standing there. All three of them got into the car and headed toward the checkpoint. The guards were looking for a car with a young husband, wife, and their child. But John's car also had two elderly passengers, so no one suspected anything. The guards glanced at the car once and let them pass without checking. John breathed a deep sigh of relief. After covering some distance, he dropped the uncle and aunt safely inside the city and then headed straight toward the Canadian airport. Meanwhile, TV channels were preparing to show their photos as fugitives. But luck was on John's side. Their passports had already been checked, and at that exact moment, the security guard's shift changed. The new guard had no idea that John and Lara had already gone inside. Back at John's house, when the police started piecing together the papers thrown in the trash, they found a picture of the country Haiti. Immediately, they ordered all flights to Haiti to be stopped. But this was John's real game. Because a little later, Quinnen realized that they had found only half of the plan papers. John had deliberately removed the other half so the police would be misled. In reality, the Haiti clue was just a move, so that while the police remained stuck there, John, Lara, and their son Luke could safely reach another place. And that's exactly what happened. While the police kept searching in Haiti, John, Lara, and Luke were already sitting on a flight to Venezuela. A few days later, we see all three starting a new life in the city of Caracas, where there was no police, no danger, only love and peace. So, can you love someone as much as John loved Lara? Do tell us in the comments. See you in the next video.